But you're going to be able to, in the future, if you want to, and I'm very interested to see if other broadcast companies pick up on this and do something similar, but at least on Peacock to start out, you're going to be able to mute the broadcasters when you watch a game. Now, for me, I enjoy listening to the broadcasters, especially when there's a very good color commentator who can teach me things about football that I don't necessarily know or notice while watching the game. We all watch the football when we're watching the game, so the analysts are great when they can key us in on things that we don't recognize or don't see during the game. So I personally probably wouldn't do this, but there may be some games where I would consider it. You're going to be able to mute the broadcasters, but here's where I don't know if it's cool. It's kind of cooler than just, you're not muting the actual volume. You might think like, well, if I just mute the game. But here's the thing. If you mute the broadcasters, you're still going to be able to hear the ambient noise around the stadium. Apparently, you're going to be able to hear the PA announcer. So it could give you the feel of being in the stadium without actually being in the stadium if you think that that's a more enjoyable way to watch the game, or if you just hate specific broadcasters. Aaron, I said I probably wouldn't do this, but there's times where Tony Romo would make me consider it.
I don't hate Tony as much as people hate Tony. I like doing play-by-play and doing commentary. It's on these games. It's hard. These broadcasts are hard. I prefer.
But you could try to do the job itself.
Tony's doing it differently. Once again, it goes to there's no. Traditionally, yes, there is a job for the play-by-play and the color commentator. But who's to say that they can't change it up and do it to the way they seem fit? Nance doesn't seem to have a problem with it.
I've heard that they don't necessarily love each other.
Then they wouldn't be working together anymore.
Well, that's not always the case. It's just, listen, why are color commentators almost always former players?
Because they know the game.
Because they know the game, because they see things that other people can't see, because they have perspective that other people can't have. And your job is to teach people about the game and to show them what just happened and why it just happened. And when you're just sitting there making predictions the whole game, you're not doing that. And Tony Romo, I can't remember a time where Tony Romo broke down a play and said, here's what just happened, and here's why it just happened. And to me, that is infinitely more interesting than they're going to run it here, they're going to run it here, they're going to run it here. That's, I don't know. It drives me crazy with Tony Romo.
I just like having commentary on. I would hate just having ambient noise. I would hate having the crowd noise. I want to watch the game and I want to listen to the game and hear the game being called. Now, even if the color's not the best, I still like hearing the play-by-play. I like hearing what's going on. And typically, more often than not, the guy who's leading the mic doing play-by-play, they're usually well-seasoned and very good.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're talking about NFL games. I can't think of an NFL play-by-play guy that I can't stomach, right? Play-by-play is pretty much cut and dry. You're calling the play as it happens. And the play-by-play guys are, to your point, very, very good. It's the color commentators that I think, there's some guys that are really, to me, Greg Olsen is as good as it gets, right? Greg Olsen did it in his final year in the league on his bye week. He did color on his bye week, and he was fantastic.
I don't see how people would do this for entertainment. I could see how people could do this, and I was telling you about this last night. For instance, you or Chris Mathis, who aspire to be broadcasters yourself. Yeah, if you want to turn that thing on, crowd noise, and then start calling the game, then that might be able to help you. Because when you're watching a game and the volume's on, and I guess you could do it just muting the volume, but if you're watching a game and the volume's on, you're hearing the commentary, you're not able to focus. You can't do your own commentary over commentary. It's just weird. But if you have that crowd noise, you make it seem like a stadium, and then you kind of just sit down and get your element and get used to calling games yourself. For aspiring broadcasters, I think it could be used as a tool. But for me, as a viewer, as a pure spectator, as a fan of the sport, I will never use that feature.
You know what? It could be good potentially too if I'm not Super Bowl party guy, or watch football with other people guy in part because I want to hear the commentary. But if you were at a Super Bowl party or a game, let's say you're at a drinking establishment somewhere and you're watching a game, a lot of times you can't really hear the commentary anyways. So I almost feel like that could be a good, like, imagine being at a Super Bowl party and you've got the ambient noise, you hear the PA guy every now and then.
No, stupid. It's a license to talk. It's the worst idea ever.
Yeah, but people are talking anyway.
Yeah, but
that's why we don't go.
You can drown them out with the commentary. If you make it louder, maybe people stop talking. You're
going to be the guy in the middle of a room full of people that just turns the TV up all the way until people shut up.
During the Super Bowl?
No, you don't go.
During the Super Bowl, yes,
but you can't ruin other people's parties.
It's a Super Bowl. You're here to watch the Super Bowl. We're not here to all chat. Yeah, you know me. I don't want to hear other people talk, but if you just go crowd noise, no commentary, those people are going to go, wow, we got to fill this empty void of no noise with our mouths.
But they're doing that anyways. That's why I don't go to the parties. That's why you don't go to the parties. Because I've told you, I went to my friend Joe's party years ago, and I was standing there like half an hour before the game looking around the room at all the how are you doings, how have you beens that are coming my way. And I'm like,
That's why I typically only like to watch football with a small group in the comfort of either my home or their home where I'm comfortable. I don't like going to games, as you noted in the last segment. Like, I don't enjoy that experience. I don't like sitting in a stuffy press box. I just don't like I like the comfort of my own home, and that's my viewing experience. I have everything that I need. Beers are cheap. Like, that's my experience that I like.
Good beers are cheaper than bad beers at the stadium.
So typically I'm not going to go to a friend's house if I think there's going to be random people there that aren't there to watch football. That's what my Sundays are for, and Saturdays.
It's the only way that I could see potentially thinking this is a good idea. I'm shocked, honestly, that they're doing it. Like, if you're paying millions upon millions of dollars for broadcasters to call the game, you're then going to give people the option to mute it? Also, what happens if they do? What happens if a lot of people mute your games? Are you now getting rid of the crew? Like, not entirely, but like bringing in new people? Is it like, well, this crew, people are muting this
No,
crew?
because there's always the thirst for the good broadcast. Even if you have a minority, I don't see it getting to the levels that you're suggesting that or putting out there for this equation. I don't see it getting there.
But it doesn't have to be huge numbers. It could just be, hey, this guy gets a lot more people muting the broadcast than this guy.
Well, yeah, that could hurt some people with analytics. It could cause them to go, hey, Tony Romo, analytics suggest you're being muted more than anybody else, so we still want you, but we're not going to pay you the ridiculous money we're paying you.
I don't know if Romo would get muted. I think I feel like I'm in the minority on Romo and just hating what Romo does. Like, there are people I know that feel the same way. But I feel like a lot of people agree with you where they kind of like what Romo does.
There's never been a broadcaster, color or play-by-play, that I've heard and gone, oh, my God, I got to turn this off. I can't listen to this guy. I've never had it happen in my life.
No. I found guys annoying or less prepared than maybe they should be at times when they say things that you're like, whoa, what the hell? Like, I remember the first time I thought, like, yes, I could definitely call play-by-play in the NFL. I was watching a Giants preseason game. And the guy they had, I think it was a Carolina guy, actually. And Brandon Jacobs ran the ball for the Giants. And he's like, man, that Brandon Jacobs, he's a fullback that runs the ball just like a tailback. And I'm watching at home going, how does this guy not know that he's a tailback? Like, that's insanity.
That's something you do quite often. Well, not quite often, but I've heard you a couple times get on somebody for not knowing something. Where you're like, can you believe they didn't know this?
Something like,
can you believe he called
position
Harrison Snacks and didn't know that it was his name? He thought it was the same. He thought it was different people.
Well, don't forget, if we're going to go into that story, he led with, here's what people don't know, which is, I know more than you. And then he went into calling the same guy two different people. You can't do that.
Says who? Says you.
Says anybody watching.
And you might have misheard him or made him misspoke. You gave him a lot of grief for that.
Well, he deserved a lot of grief for that. And maybe isn't doing that many games anymore.
It's a Hall of Famer you're talking about.
Listen.
Just respect on Rondé Barber's name.
I respect him a lot. Great player. Struggled as an analyst at times. Is that fair?
He did. He was an analyst the way he wanted to do it. And people are getting on Gus Johnson. Like, I love the Gus Johnson experience. And if it gets stuck in your head, like Gus Johnson gets stuck in my head, they've done a good job. Heis Mendoza, Charlie Becker. Gets stuck in my head. Those are some great calls from this year.
I like Gus Johnson. I don't love your Gus Johnson.
Well, my Gus Johnson's terrible. That's
Your
why I'm
Gus
not
Johnson
Gus.
sounds like somebody being run over while doing play-by-play.
That's kind of Gus.
Like there's a car on top of them.
Is that not Gus
No,
Johnson?
no. Gus has too much energy to be being run over.